Hi, this is Elliot Fishman, and welcome to Facebook Live. And today it's very quiet, unfortunately. All the guys are gone. I'm on my wing. You know, all of us are doing what we need to do on my nights and afternoons and stuff. And this hallway here, I think there's 2 people. Usually there's 50 people and lots of noise and lots of hubba. Just to let you know that you can log in later. I'm reading later Pete the Cat, The Great Leprechaun Chase, and Toy Story 4. So that'll probably be about 4 o'clock. My grandchildren, so maybe we should have a big Zoom and everyone can send their kids in and we can help out. So it's gonna be a long while. I think this virus thing is real. I think at Hopkins, like everywhere, we're trying to do our best for our patients, protecting ourselves and our families and our technologists. And it's gonna be a long haul, there's no doubt about it. I don't need to tell you. We are gonna, one of the good things about us having done the website CTisus for the past 21 years, we have massive content and essentially every meeting worldwide is canceled. So we have thousands of lectures, 268,000 cases, tons of content. We're adding lectures and everything consistently. So it's a great place to visit it. I know many of you are. And we are going to continue with Facebook to post material. So for example, today's thing is Q&A, you can see. And with the hair, I think all of you know that you probably are about 3 months away from getting another haircut. So get over it. So we did have, this is the time to ask questions. Now Lily did collect a bunch of questions. Remember, we asked people for questions. Now, one thing just to comment on, first of all, is that one of the questions has been, how do you scan COVID patients? So we did post how we prep the room with the HEPA filter, and it's really basically precautions you probably use for TB. A little bit depends on your individual institution, the air handling and everything else. So it's not a perfect answer for everybody, excuse me. But it is a good answer for many of you, and it's surely a way to get started. If anyone has any other good ideas that you use at your place, I'd be happy to post them on CTisus. So that becomes very, very important. I also mentioned at Hopkins we're trying to figure out ways of scanning our patients better and safer. Lots of good work by AJR in radiology, publishing a lot of articles. European College of Radiology, very similar. So everyone kind of knows what you should be looking for in terms of the virus on CT. Also, hopefully a little bit later by today, Harold Litt and his team at the University of Pennsylvania has put together a very strong PowerPoint, how to grade the cases and from certainty levels. And as soon as they give us permission, we're going to post that. So hopefully you'll see that sometime today. We're going with all our people. We're going with Buzz Lightyear. We're using all the forces we know from Forky. And in showing you Buzz Lightyear and Forky, this reminds me that this is Pixar and Disney. And yesterday, Ed Catmull, our good friend, and Pat Hanrahan, also a good friend from way back when at Pixar, won the Turing Award, which is like the Nobel Prize in computing. So unfortunately, it's coming amongst excuse me, I should have eaten that peanut before. It comes along in this really difficult times, and hopefully we'll all have time to celebrate their achievements after we get through this thing. We're bringing all forces in. We're bringing the count. And of course, probably my 2 heroes, Peabody and Sherman. If Peabody and Sherman can't do it, we'll have to bring back Jonah and the whale and the city of Nineveh. All joking aside, I think one needs to feel some comfort in the best and the brightest around the globe are really working on this problem, and hopefully we'll also get a little bit of luck. It will not be the first virus that changes its structure, and hopefully for all of us, the structure will change to something benign rather than something more virulent. So we're going on the benign. So this, as I said, ask questions. I don't see any questions up there right now, and hopefully that's just because of the way this is structured. But I'll read you some questions. Okay, now not all of these questions relate to the virus, and that's probably a good thing. So we're going to try to go through the questions, and I'm just going to do them in order that Lily gave them to me. What's your protocol for suspected perforation leak from a radiologic inserted G-tube? What you can do is just give oral contrast to stent the stomach. Also, if you inject, if there's an NG tube in place, injecting that works well. Once you put a PEG tube in, you always have a little bit of pneumoperitoneum. You want to look very carefully to make sure the tube is within the stomach. And if there's a lot of air, you're going to have to worry there's a leak. So injecting can also be very helpful. Some comments on for the latest articles in Radiology about COVID-19. I think, let me just say that what you want to do is read the articles. There's a series of 7 articles in AJR. There's a series of more than that in Radiology, lots of images, the European College of Radiology, and I commend all of the publishers and the journals who are making everything open press. Remember, there is a business to run, but we're in a crisis mode, and people took the higher ground, obviously, and make everything available to everyone. So look at those images. With the COVID virus, the ground glass patterns, the typical viral pattern is very classic. There are other patterns. Now remember, a lot of people have pneumonia, so not everything. And I think radiologists need to be very careful. And hopefully this thing from Harold Litt we'll put up later. Because, this time of year or any time of year, we see lots of pneumonia. You don't want to be reading every report saying pneumonia, can't rule out COVID-19. So you want to be very, very careful on that. So, but look at those articles. Room prep question, are we best to turn off air conditioning unit in the scan room during COVID cases? I think this is from Ireland, Avril from Ireland. I think you need to really speak to the people in your hospital on the air handling. The air handling becomes very critical because how air is circulated, if your air is circulated like on a plane where it goes everywhere, that would be a really good idea to do. I think some of us have rooms where they have the air handling is limited to the room, and that's why you can take care of things very nicely. But if your air handling is such that wherever the air goes, it's universally distributed, that's going to be a problem. So then you need to be working on how to get around that. Now there's a question here which I don't really understand. Do you have the latest discrepancy standards for live CT, maybe for liver CT reporting? Maybe that's what it is. And this question about auditing and editing and whatever, I think maybe we'll put that off for now, since no one is being audited. There's no JCOs coming around. Everything is kind of on hold. So we'll get to that later. Will you proceed to do a CT scan in a 70-year-old male with a chronic cough, heavy smoker, with an x-ray that shows consolidation left up below? The answer, of course, is yes. A cough and a heavy smoker, even in the face of a negative x-ray, you're probably going to do a CT scan. And surely if there's collapse, you want to know, is it tumor encasement? Is there a foreign body? Is it adenopathy? What is going on? So CT is the thing to do. What's the best figure of calcium scoring to decide not to proceed in a coronary CTA? Obviously, as you're suggesting, the higher the score, the more difficult it is to do a coronary CTA. It's also the distribution of the calcification. Sometimes the calcification is really dense, and so the score is much more worrisome than the visualization. But the higher the score, the worse it is. Although there was an article by Hecht a number of years ago saying there's no arbitrary score, many people will use a score of 1,000 as a cutoff. But to me, it's more the distribution. If there's lots of calcified plaques and they're distributed, then we're fine. Okay, we're getting some questions now from Wayne what do you think the world and the profession will learn from COVID-19? I think that what the world is going to learn is these type of problems with viruses are going to come more frequent as man encroaches on nature. And this is just the risk in civilization in general. I think we need to be prepared. I think whether it's the fact that hospitals or the governments need to have depots where you store masks and preventive equipment, or developing small respirators that can be used in urgent things. You don't need the giant respirators. Everything we've minified, respirators tend to be the same. So for crises like that. But I think also we're going to learn how to use AI. I think AI is going to be the big thing from all of this, to be able to predict and hopefully stop the next epidemic. It's not going to help now to any great degree, although it's probably going to help us look at different drug availability and plan better, do things faster. But I think it makes the point that nature wins. Mother Nature, you can't fool Mother Nature. At the end of the day, I hate to say, but with all our technology, we seem to be back in the 1100s or the 300s or whatever hundreds, the BCs even, where you have a virus running rampant. It's like Jonah and the whale. I mean, it really is a little bit scary. So I think the world's going to have to learn that we're going to have to be more aggressive going after the unexpected. Before we worry about putting man on Mars and exploring the solar system, we better learn how to keep man safe on Earth. And I think that's one of the things that we will learn. I think that from an economic perspective, you see what's going to change. I wonder if medical education is totally going to change. Will there ever be meetings? Will everything now be online? Companies like Zoom, my grandchildren are online. They're giving lessons from class. Everything may change in that regard. We also talk about breaking up companies like Google and Facebook, and not I talk about it, but we all talk about it, and Amazon. Well, the one thing you learn is because those companies are strong, Amazon is delivering everything. It's the only stock that's going up because they're delivering. And people who never used Amazon are using Amazon. It's a great distribution mechanism of control and everything else. So perhaps success should not be frowned upon. That in crises, when the president talks, they need a website. We need Google. You need Microsoft for analysis. You need Amazon for delivery. You need NVIDIA for chips, on and on. Great companies behave like great companies in crisis, and we need those great companies. Other places which have squished those great companies are going to be in problem. Do you have a view of the specificity of CT to diagnose COVID-19? I think it's very sensitive. The specificity will depend on the population, obviously. If someone comes in with a cough and everything else, and you have these ground glass appearances, there's certain very high suspicious patterns. There's no doubt about that. The hope is, of course, what we're going to have is more positive testing. There's some new tests coming along very quickly that could take a half an hour. So I think before you scan the patient, you're going to know positive or negative. So that's very, very important. Next question is not related to COVID. Why do we do most thoracic CT in arterial phase? Well, I think it's a timing issue. It depends what you're doing. If you're looking at, for example, the aorta, you want to be at that time. You want to be that timing, which is 30 seconds. If you're looking for pulmonary embolism, you want to be earlier. If you're doing tumor staging, you want to be 40, 45 seconds, 50 seconds. You want arterial and venous to be filled. So I think it's very much specific. If you're doing oncologic imaging, I think too early is not good. I think for aortic dissections, obviously looking at the coronary arteries, all the things like that, arterial phase is critical. Okay, Eduardo from Mexico, do you think AI can help give an early diagnosis on chest x-ray? Right now, I think if you go to the AI section on CTisus, there are articles now from China which suggests just what you're saying, that early detection of infiltrate better with computers assisted AI, and that AI can predict based on patterns who has COVID-19. Now again, this limited data, it's not been looked at in multiple data sets and all the usual problems, but there is a suggestion that indeed will be helpful. Okay, that takes care of the questions online. Let me see, where was I? How do you figure out what to do next after you achieve something you want? How do you know that you are going in the right direction? Do you plan your life ahead? If yes, how do things turn out for you? By the way, just to say that really appreciate what you've done. I appreciate that. I think Steve Jobs explained it best that in retrospect, you could connect the dots of what you're doing. I think we wrote an article we just submitted to JACR about that. I think it's very hard. I think your life, whether it's professional or personal, is not Google Maps. Google Maps is terrific. You know where you are and you know where you want to go. And Google Maps gives you the best pathway there. The shortest, if you want to go on highways, if you want to go on roads, if you want to save tolls. You can put a few things in, but basically it's giving you the best pathway. And with Waze on top of it, it gives you the fastest pathway if something is a traffic jam or something. So in some sense, maybe you should think that we should be like Google Maps. But the fact is, life is not that simple. You don't want to be distracted by every shiny object, but if you just put 2 points in, you may miss the opportunity. If you look at people like I mentioned, the Turing Award, Ed Capel, they started building computers. That was the passion of building computers for doing imaging, 3D imaging, whether it was medical, seismic, and movies. And then that didn't really work out. And the next thing you know, they were making movies and everything changed with Pixar. From making hardware, which I have in my office, to making movies. You need to think about what you're doing, but then transition. So I think the key thing is to always be thinking, to always be looking. Now, you don't want to be zigzagging along. Some people, I always tell people this advice when you write articles. I always say that if you have 10 articles that are 90% finished, you have 0 articles. So complete things, finish things. Don't chase every bright, shiny object. Steve Jobs, again, made the point. It's always easy to say yes. It's very hard to say no. And successful people say no. No, I can't help you. I apologize, but I'm too busy. There's nothing bad about saying no. People may not like you, but that's life in the fast lane, to quote Larry David. But the point is, to me, the worst thing is someone saying yes and not following through. So you need to be a person of your word. If you say, I'm going to do it, do it. If you say, I can't do it, people may not be happy, but they can't argue. At least you were honest. So you can plan, but it's just like this virus thing. No one planned on this. It's changed our world. Everything has changed from family to home to school to work. It's just unbelievable change. And we are adjusting, and we will fight it, and it's going to take a bit of time. We will succeed, but this was no one's plan, okay? Peter Kroll, tumor staging in most hospitals in the Netherlands are done in the arterial phase and portovenous liver abdomen. Yeah, I mean, the question is why? I think timing issues to get to the abdomen in the right time, but I think if you think about lung cancer or metastasis from, let's say, renal cell to chest, the reality is arterial or venous, you're going to be almost as accurate. But if you're not that experienced, venous is a bit easier because everything that belongs there, pulmonary arteries, aorta, are all opacified. There's no confusion with vessel versus node. So why am I seeing 2 Dr. Fishmans? Oh yeah. Hey, and I see Lydiana's here from California. Lydiana is in Palo Alto, and I'm sure everybody is tied down there or locked in. So wish Lydiana the best. Hi there. In terms of the standard scanning protocol for possible COVID, high-res CT, non-contrast CT, thin sections. Make sure you do the HRCT protocol, whatever your scanner has. So 1 millimeter or less slice thickness, you can do every 5 millimeters or even thinner, or even every 10 millimeters. You're looking is the typical high-res interstitial protocol, which every scanner has. That high spatial resolution filter. No contrast is necessary. It's a very, very easy study to do for everybody. And hopefully when we post that protocol thing, that will indeed be in there. So, but you don't need contrast CT. Let's say, what's the biggest change in radiology since you started your career? I guess the question is to ask me what hasn't changed in radiology. I think people still do fluoro and replane films, but I think everything has changed. The technology, CT was starting, now CT, MR, ultrasound, everything has changed. I think the reason radiology has been so successful, and I think why many people are still excited about radiology, is that constant change. And we look forward to even more change. We're working on 3D imaging. We're working on AI. We're working on holography. We're working on all sorts of things. And it's not just us. It's many people, many of you in the audience, many people in this country and around the world. I think the changes that we're going to see once we get through this virus, will be astronomical. So I am very excited about that. So that will indeed come along. There's a question here about specific changes for COVID. I think the articles do a good job at that. I mean, you'll see we'll have, unfortunately, thousands and thousands of scans. At some point when you have that many scans, people will then look at the patterns, and that's where AI may come in. People will also look at patterns of resolution. How can you predict what patients are going to run into trouble based on patterns? So I know people are using AI right now looking at patterns of disease and how well you can predict outcomes. So that's very important. I just looked up, we're at 21 minutes, and I don't want to keep people, some of you are very busy, some of you are at home. One thing we have considered and we're happy to do it, since it's not that hard for me to do, is we do this every week. But if people want it, we can do it, I won't say every day, but we can do it every other day. We can address specific topics. I think as more people are homebound, you can go crazy. And I mean that in the nicest of ways. I think it's important, particularly if areas become locked down and you're in your house. Most of us are not in Larry Ellison, a 70,000 square foot house where you could be lost, or you're not the Queen of England. So some of you in New York apartments that are really tight, where you can, it's you and the dog, and you and the spouse, or you and whatever. So it's really a challenge for people, and we're happy to try to help and do whatever we can to make things better. So hang in there. Again, I don't know how we can arrange it, but we are doing story time. And I do sing, but I refuse to sing in public because my grandchildren can take it, but they can't. And hopefully the Count and Forky and all the guys will do their best. And keep safe, keep strong, and we'll see you soon. And with that, have a great day and hang in there. Bye, guys.